My next patron question is from Scoundrel, who wanted to know my thoughts on a type of response to people liking a certain piece of media. Do you think being blinded by nostalgia has become a strawman argument? I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but most of the time I feel that it's become one. Just because someone likes an older movie, TV show, or even video game better than a current one does not mean they are blinded by nostalgia. Strawman arguments in general are a huge pet peeve of mine. Do you think strawman arguments are a problem when it comes to people disagreeing with each other on movies? I guess it's become sort of common to say people only like something or even dislike something based on a certain childhood attachment to a movie or franchise. What's interesting is that sometimes people will be open about the fact that they grew up with a movie in their childhood, and so that does play a role in how they feel about that film. But yes, there are those who just chalk up someone's enjoyment of something entirely on nostalgia. I confess that even I fell into that trap many years ago. I used to assume that people's positive affection towards Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory came from watching in their childhood. This ignores that there were adult critics who genuinely enjoyed the movie when it was first released in 1971, with Roger Ebert being a particularly big champion of it. And if someone enjoyed a movie when they were younger and still hold a soft spot for it, even if that differs from your opinion or the overall critical consensus, then what's the problem with that? Clearly, there must have been something there that appealed to their younger taste and gave them the very things they were looking for in entertainment. It might even allow for a different perspective when they're older. Good Burger was widely disliked by critics in its initial release as they found the humor juvenile and the pacing too hyperactive. However, those who grew up on the movie and analyze it now are able to get in its wavelength and dig the absurdist and wacky comedy style. The interesting thing about Good Burger is that even though I never watched the movie in my youth, when I watched it for the first time a few years ago, I found myself enjoying it. So I do find it unfair to say someone only likes something for nostalgia. I remember seeing a review of Rogue One that said that people who liked it only did so because Darth Vader was in it. But there are two problems with that. Number one, Darth Vader is only in a few scenes, and a fan-favorite character being in a couple minutes of a 2-hour and 50-minute movie is not going to seriously move the needle on someone's overall view of it. And number two, the Star Wars fanbase is one of the most notoriously difficult to please, and won't shy away from dismissing an entire film even if they admit to liking a few moments. Then again, this same person said in another review that Tron has an undeserving cult following. If Tron has a following, then it's because that was a film that had a lot of elements that appealed to those people who watched and loved it. I'm pretty sure the people who love and maintain a fondness for Tron do so because they appreciate the world building and use of technology and became invested in what the characters were facing. I do think something that can happen is people being opposed to change when there's a new iteration of something. I remember when the Looney Tunes show first aired, and they introduced that version of Lola Bunny, and there were actually people upset that the writers changed her from the hypersexualized version in Space Jam, whose main purpose was to just be Girl Rabbit, to a more wacky character with a crazy personality fitting the Looney Tunes brand of humor. Now, if people prefer the Lola from Space Jam, that's fine, but there were people not even willing to give this Lola a shot because she was not the same. Or going back to Willy Wonka, there were people who judged Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as a remake and decried the things it did differently from the 70s film, even though the intent was to do a more faithful adaptation of the book. I also struggled to find a review of Robert Zemeckis' adaptation of The Witches that did not compare it to Nicholas Roeg's version, even though, again, it was just another adaptation of the book, not a remake. It's why I no longer compare adaptations of the same source material and instead look at each one individually on its own terms. The Disney remakes can be an interesting case of this, though. I'm someone who generally prefers when they depart from the animated film because I don't want to just see the exact same movie done again, just told with photorealistic looking animals and live action actors. When they just repeat scenes from the original movie, that's not interesting to me. However, there are people who do want to see the story told the exact same way, with the characters and songs kept intact and exactly the same. It's why you have people say Mulan should have had Mushu and musical numbers, or that for the upcoming Hercules remake, Danny DeVito should play Phil again. But I can just watch that movie. It already exists. Give me a new take on that story. Overall, I agree with the question that saying someone likes something because of nostalgia is not an argument. Nostalgia is a legitimate emotion, albeit one that does have its problems, particularly when applied to real life, like people who romanticize an earlier decade. But when it comes to movies, as long as they're not hurting anyone, let people enjoy whatever they want and find appeal in something, whether watched in their child or adulthood. Thank you for your question, Scoundrel.